The Triangle of Sadness. What does the title of the film mean? What is it all about? Well, to be honest, this film took me by surprise. I thought I was gonna watch some kind of weird, downer art house film about a yacht full of rich people bickering over each other, but in the end the movie was a fun, enjoyable satire about the disconnect between the ultra wealthy and the rest of the world. And furthermore, Triangle of Sadness is all about power and the dangers that come with it. Who has it, who doesn't, and what they're willing to do to acquire it. Everyone in the movie wants that power. The film is mainly set on a luxury yacht. The ultra wealthy are at the top deck, their servants that are part of the yacht crew are below, and under them are the cooks, engineers, and sailors of the ship. The rich, the servants, and in general the ship's higher ups all come from Western or European countries, and as far down the ladder of power you go, the more you'll find people of color, or in general people of non-Western and non-European countries. This top-down approach is integral to the satire of Triangle of Sadness. But in order to get the full picture, we have to go back to the beginning and see how the movie chooses to introduce us to its two main characters. The Triangle of Sadness starts with the arduous relationship of a young couple, Carl and Yaya. Although they're both models that work in the fashion industry, Yaya is far more successful than Carl, and he doesn't like that at all. He feels jealous and envious that all the limelight is on her, when he can barely find a job, going through one annoying audition after another. And when Carl finally does get work as a model, he's never in the spotlight by himself, but he works as part of an ensemble group alongside other male models. There is something really interesting in these first 5 or so minutes of the film, where we see Carl obeying the commands of the photographer, slipping in between laughter and stoic moodiness in order to get the shot. This interchange between emotions is a subtle metaphor for Carl's character for the rest of the movie. He will change his approach in life as dispassionately and professionally as the film progresses in order to get what he wants. And what he wants is the same thing that every character wants in this film: power. Power to keep Yaya by his side and power to get the good jobs. Moments later, when Carl and Yaya share the screen for the first time, they have an ugly fight over who gets to pay the bill. Carl feels that Yaya is using him for a meal ticket even if she makes more money than him. And he's basically right. Yaya doesn't love Carl all that much and views their relationship as something transactional. Yaya is looking for something more money and the power that comes with it. And that will push Carl to go after that very money and power, even if it means losing the respect of Yaya and losing the respect of himself. A few days later, Carl and Yaya fly to a luxury yacht as part of their jobs as models/influencers. There they meet a variety of rich as fuck people who are completely out of touch with reality. The young, pretty and mostly European servants of the ship will do anything they can to satisfy the whims of the rich in order to get a big tip. They live with the illusion that just being near the ultra-rich will somehow change their lives, and maybe one day they'll stop being servants and become masters themselves. As time passes on the yacht, we see that the movie prefers to focus more on the overall satire than its main two characters. Carl and Yaya slowly drift to the background as we see more of the disconnect between the rich and the non-wealthy people of the ship. This disconnect is demonstrated multiple times throughout the movie in scenes that can best be described as bizarrely enjoyable and quirky, as the satire that the film is aiming at finds its target dead on. The first time we see the yacht, we focus on a case being delivered by a helicopter on the ship. As the scene unfolds, we discover that there was no emergency of any kind that warranted a helicopter, and the valuable contents of the case are just a few jars of Nutella. That was the precious content that the helicopter was carrying. Triangle of Sadness doesn't waste time. It plainly says that this is the reality of the world in which the rich and the wealthy live. They're petty little kings and queens, and if they want a box of Nutella while they're in the middle of the ocean, that is exactly what they will get. When I was watching this scene, I started to think that what if that helicopter was needed somewhere else? What if someone drowned because the rescue crew had to go fetch some damn Nutella for some rich assholes? This kind of example where things can go bad for silly, trite reasons start to become more evident when a little later the wife of an ultra-wealthy Russian mogul starts a nonsensical rant towards a yacht crew member that in reality money doesn't matter and she and her are all the same. In fact, she outright demands that the ship's crew stop working and instead go for a swim in order to enjoy themselves. This causes a domino effect where the food in the kitchen gets neglected and goes bad, and we have a hilarious sequence later on where all the rich start to throw up all over the cabin, and at the same time the yacht is caught in a big storm, and because of the turbulence the plumbing gets backed up and the rich drown in a figurative and literally sea of vomit, shit and seawater. The captain can't do much to help because he's perpetually drunk. He has locked himself inside the captain's quarters, and alongside the Russian fertilizer mogul, they debate the cons and pros of communism and capitalism. Things take a turn for the worse when during a pirate attack the ship gets blown up and sinks. The irony in all of that is the Russian mogul in an earlier scene proudly proclaimed that he sells fertilizer and he's king of shit, and later on his wife died swimming in shit. This is the perfect circular satire of Triangle of Sadness. What comes around goes around. Earlier in the film, a wealthy elderly couple proudly proclaims that they made their fortunes by selling grenades, and what do you know, a bit later on, they die from one of the grenades that the pirates throw when they board the ship. The grenade goes boom and the ship sinks. The hierarchy and social order of the yacht turns on its head when the shipwrecked survivors land on a deserted coast somewhere. All the ultra-rich people have no clue how to survive on their own, and a new power emerges. One of the cleaners of the ship, Abigail, had managed to escape the sinking ship aboard the lifeboat, which is filled with supplies and food. Abigail knows how to fish and hunt and cook, and she quickly establishes a matriarchy. She controls all the food and supplies and starts to lord over the remaining survivors. She even orders Carl to sleep with her inside the lifeboat in exchange for food. Here in the third act, we see how the film focuses on how power corrupts Abigail. Triangle of Sadness really started with a pyramid of power, with Carl having less power and influence than Yaya. Then at the yacht, their stories and time on screen were severely minimized, because the ultra-wealthy had much more power than them. Then later on, after the shipwreck, the triangle of power inverts and Carl, Yaya and the rest of the rich people are at the bottom of the pyramid. And up top sits the one person who can actually do things with their hands and wits. This newfound power corrupts Abigail, and at the end of the film she's ready to do anything she can to keep her position intact, to keep the triangle of power of inverting back to its original place. The end is hilarious and shocking at the same time. Yaya discovers that they didn't shipwreck in the middle of nowhere as they thought. In fact, there is a luxury resort just down the road. The film has an open ending. Will Abigail kill Yaya, hitting her over the head with a rock before she notifies the staff of the resort? Abigail certainly doesn't want to go back to clean toilets. She wants to keep the power that she now has. She wants everyone eating out of her hand and desires Carl as her sexual partner/slave. All these questions remain unanswered. The film chooses to end with an open ending, although before the credits roll we see Carl running up the same hill that Yaya and Abigail went. Is he hurrying because he wants to save Yaya, because he regrets sleeping with Abigail and wants to salvage his relationship with Yaya? We don't know. Although the end of the film isn't all as obscure and cryptic as it seems. A few minutes before we had seen a peddler walking by the coast, so we can safely theorize that in the end the shipwrecked survivors will be discovered and the possible murder of Yaya by Abigail will be for nothing. I much prefer this open, enjoyable ending to a bleak one. The movie clearly feels more comfortable being a satire than a murder drama, and choosing to end with a question focuses the film's essence on how power corrupted Abigail and led her to the precipice of murder. Whether she does it or not is really beside the point. In the state of cinema these days, great movies come from great writers and directors. I didn't know the work of Ruben Östlund, but I surely will give him the time he deserves and watch the rest of his movies. I'm sure they will be as excellent as this one. So that's it for this video. If you want to help the channel, please subscribe, leave a comment with your thoughts and like the video. Thanks for watching.